his abilities. And then with the newcomer, the Wraith, I don't want to spill too many beans about him, and their childhood friendship, that doesn't come out until later. They make the dynamic duo, of this story. They have to be there to be able to win the end game.
Yeah, I can see that. You've got two generations here. You've got, Charlotte, Grant, and then you've got the Time Wraiths that go with them, Becca, possibly the Oracle. And then you've got now LG and his Time Wraith, Cham. So yeah, we can see there's a new generation coming in here to this series. I was intrigued, I have to say, and I don't know what you think about why your mum has put this character in, Stephanie. Curtis. Now, Curtis, for me, you've put him in an institution, which is probably hinting at that he's got mental health, issues. Why Curtis? Why is he such a powerful character? Almost like, he's an evil character, isn't he? He's up to no good.
Yes.
Tell us more here.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a book review done, of the Timekeeper series. And the book reviewer, she likened the whole series, because she read the third book too, to give the review, to the MCU, and she likened Curtis to Loki, and because his mischievousness and stuff like that, and that just made me laugh. I hadn't thought about that, but we needed an antagonist, and what is about Curtis is he's the brother to Charlotte. And he's the one that, and he's an individual who needs to be powerful, who needs to be known, who needs to be significant. Okay, he doesn't feel like he's significant unless he is like has a power over somebody, And he's also very gullible because he gets taken in by the evil keeper, who feeds into this his personality of needing to be in power, and to be noticed. Because he wants to be known. Everybody wants to be noticed, but like he needs to be everybody's center of attention. That kind of rounds out his character. So because of this, he's just a constant problem, throughout the whole series, because of his getting involved, because of his bent toward wanting to be bad, and his bent to be, kind of gullible toward people praising him, and kind of trying to help his ego, like keep stroking his ego.
Now, you set the scene of this book in lockdown.
Yes.
This book, everybody's written during lockdown, and lockdown is mentioned in the COVID-19 because they are locked in the 3-story block, the apartment that they've got, with the basement, with the royal stain, the royal rates down there. Then you've got the shop, and then you've got the living quarters above, and of course they're locked in due to COVID. Did you do this deliberately so that you could concentrate more on the storyline of the characters to get the dark, sinister side out of this book, and so therefore you weren't spending time describing scenery outside the clock shop? Was it done deliberately?
Yes, in a large part of it done deliberately, but also is the influence of actually going through the pandemic. And although I didn't name it, the COVID pandemic, I left it open that so that if people like years from now read it, they could get a little flavor of what was going on,
Mm.
during this time. And it was, I mean, because the start of the book, we weren't quite to the pandemic yet, but the majority of it is there because I needed LG to grow up. I needed him to come from a baby into a place to where he was. His ability were more known, and he could actually do something. Babies wouldn't be able to do what he needed to do. So I had to kind of mark time. That's why it's kind of a slow burn, on what's going on. There's hints, there's, different things that come out, stuff like that. And using the pandemic and having them in one location, lended itself to that.
I thought you did. That's why that's why I've asked. And then because you take LG and Cham up into the attic, we're not going
Yes.
there. Read the book, everybody. Not going to give that one away. Now, we've got to talk about the clocks and their mechanical movements, because it's the mechanical movements that the time wraiths that live in these clocks feed on.
Yes.
Now, time wraiths, and when you talk about in your book here, Dr. Penny, yeah, they can, if they choose to, feed off humans.
Yes.
But they intend to get most of their source from the mechanical movement in the clock.
Yes, the good race.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So these mechanical clocks, they're an important part to the storyline.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the clocks? They're important to you, and Stephanie, they're important to you as well, aren't they? It runs in the family.
Yes.
And because you're all involved, because Dave, your husband, is the clock person, this is why the clocks are in the books.
She works on them too.
Yeah. Spill the beans here, you two. Talk to us about the clocks and why, you put certain rates in certain clocks.
Well, I thought about having like a hierarchy within the race, society, some that were more prone to live in the wooden case clocks, the larger clocks, something like that. Then I thought, well, that might be a little bit too intricate, in the society. I mean, we have the sentinels that live in the tower clocks because that's a more powerful, a movement to support them. And then we've got the street clocks, where, we have the oracle. Those are specific type of clocks. But a lot of times when I show the clocks or introduce the clocks, it's also to make people more aware of the variety of timepieces that are out there. And I've had feedback from people that are, in fact, somebody I know from my childhood who is from England. She was born and raised in London. I had her help me with book 2 in the London scenes and stuff. And she said she goes back to London every year. And she said when she went, after she read my story, and she went back, she goes, I notice them more now.
I certainly notice them now.
Current clocks. Yeah. And I know you keep sending me pictures. Those are awesome, by the way. And so that is actually, if you want some reason for these books, the kind of behind the scenes, is to make people more aware of the antique clocks, their variety, their timelessness, kind of anyway. But they've been around. Some of these have been around way longer than the makers, and they still work if they're kept properly. Believe me, I've seen some very old clocks resurrected. So, and then just this idea that came to me one time, in the show, in the regional meeting in Houston, I just tied that sci-fi element into introducing clocks, and people seem to be enjoying them.
It's fascinating, because the time wraiths, they live in the clocks. That's their homes. And
Yes.
particularly with the Oracle one, there's a street clock, you know,
Uh-huh.
and the timekeepers are thinking, oh, wonder if the Oracle would like to move into the, you know,
Right.
the new clock they've got.
Uh-huh.
So they are an important part. But what I want to do now is there's another fascinating character here. And why am I going to talk about Winston? Because Winston, the butler, he is controlled, isn't he? He got one of these pocket watches and there was something in it. I'm not saying what it really,
Mhm.
but the royal king has controlled Winston.
Yes. Poor Winston.
Why did he have to control Winston? Tell us, without giving
Um,
too much away.
I know. I'll try not to give too many spoilers. I needed somebody close to Charlotte and Grant to be at the under control of the king. And believe me, he fights. He tries to fight that control. But the mental powers of the king are just way too much, you know. But quite frankly, all along in the series, I kept wanting to, you always hear the butler did it, you know. And I always had this, maybe I should make him kind of like a Curtis character, but I couldn't. Winston was too nice. He was too loyal. He was too, so for him to do bad things, he would have had to be controlled by, some sort of evil force, for him to, and then show that he's trying to keep his loyalty as much as possible, showing his strength of character. So, and then, but he's, so yeah, that's kind of
Let's get
Winston.
on to the time wraiths.
Okay.
We've got the good time wraiths. We've got Becca. We've got the Oracle. Cham. Now, these are mystical creatures, and they've come from another homeland, and they're on Earth because of what the royal wraiths, the ruling wraith family, who created the great evil, which has
Yes.
put the time wraiths on to Earth, not their original homelands.
Exactly.
Talk to me about the time wraiths, the good ones, and then we'll move on to the royal ones.
Okay. The good time wraiths, they realized early on when they came to Earth that because where their homeland was, they were fed by a pulsar, a rhythmic pulsing type of mechanism. So they were attracted to Earth because of the heartbeats. And so when they found when they tried to get sustenance from humans, the good race saw how it affected humans, and they tried to stay away from humans. That's where they were attracted to the mechanical clocks, because the mechanical clocks were starting to be developed about the time they came to Earth. And so that's where they started living in the mechanical clocks. Now, the bad race didn't care, so, but the good race, they did that, and they found that there's certain people that they could only perceive, that they could interact with on basic levels, and try to encourage them, especially during modern times, to keep the mechanical clocks going so they had homes.
Now, the royal wraiths, they
Yes.
are the ruling family of the time wraiths.
Right.
Why was it so important for them to be incarcerated, especially the king? He does escape. So they're downstairs in the basements. Why is it so important to have them incarcerated?
When they came to Earth and when they emerged from where they were trying to, a lot of them died on their way here because they were in space too long without any sustenance. And when they finally came to Earth and they got survived long enough for them to be recognized, who this last group of wraiths showed up, Um, Beck